I think our next speaker is Professor Mougin from University of Bordeaux, France.
Yeah.
And yeah, so she will be introducing their work on the ontology of food-drug interaction. All right.
Can you? Yeah, you can see my screen?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much for the introduction, QE. So, well, I'm very pleased to present the work we've realized with some colleagues of mine who worked in Bordeaux, and some of them are now in other universities, in La Rochelle, another French university, and in Montreal, in Canada. And well, I'm working in Bordeaux, as you mentioned it, in the Bordeaux Population Health Research Center. And yes, I will talk about FIDEO and a new version of this ontology that we enriched by integrating food-drug interactions extracted from online knowledge sources. So first, I wanted to provide a bit of context, because the workshop is more on the vaccine side. So I think it's worth mentioning the interest of studying these food-drug interactions, because we have chemical substances also in certain foods, and of course they may interact with drugs and expose potential negative effects. In particular, it may increase the effect of a given drug, but also reduce this effect. This might lead also to failures in the treatment provided to a given patient, and certain foods may increase also the toxicity of drugs, and also sometimes result in a higher risk of side effects. So the issue related to these food-drug interactions in the scientific aspect, let's say in the informatics aspect, is that most of this information is described in scientific publications or in knowledge bases, but it's available in an unstructured or semi-structured format. So it's not that easy to be accessed by people. So within the French ANR MIAM project, so it's which is now ended, we focused on the identification and how to model these food-drug interactions. And multiple methods have been implemented, in particular NLP methods to extract FDIs from text, but also integration approaches to collect information from distinct knowledge bases. And which is more of interest there is the representation also of the knowledge related to these food-drug interactions, and made it available, within an ontology. So some of the outcomes of this project, which is now ended, are well, the ontology FIDEO, but also the integration of some of the FDIs we identified within a French database, which is available and used in some hospitals. And also a visualization prototype of food-drug interactions with a hierarchy of the food and a hierarchy of the drugs, and links between both hierarchies to highlight the existing FDIs. If you are interested in having more details about this project, because there were also many papers related to NLP methods which have been developed within this project, I provide here the URL, and information is available in English. So the objective of this work, as you've seen it in the title, was to enrich a first version of FIDEO we presented at ICBO 2020, I think, with the need to adapt the representation we firstly imagined for the food-drug interactions, and also the will to integrate proper food-drug interactions, which have already been described in existing resources. And in particular, we're interested in integrating the food-drug interactions described in Drug Bank, because it's very rich. This knowledge base related to drugs includes information, as you may know, about food-drug interactions, but also about drug-drug interactions also. And regarding food-drug interactions, I provide here an example of what can be found. So as you can see, for example, for warfarin, we have information about which kind of food should be avoided when taking this drug. And one of the example I will provide you within the presentation will be regarding garlic, which corresponds to a herb and supplement with anticoagulant or antiplatelet activity. So the other resource we also exploited is EDRIN, which is a knowledge resource available in French that lists clinical studies and carries reports about interactions between medical plants and allopathic drugs, and as some of the plants are used also for food purpose, well, we considered that it was also useful to make use of this resource. This resource is available online upon request, which is not necessary for Drug Bank. So let's switch to the methods we've implemented. So first of all, regarding the representation we made about food-drug interactions, I just made a focus on the relevant drugs regarding this FDI. So the food-drug interaction was described as a process regarding the BFO ontology. We also described the information source from which the interaction was described. So this corresponding to an information content entity, this as described in IAO, sorry. And to describe the food-drug interaction itself, we describe a link as participant with a given food product and a relation has input with the drug. We decided to provide two different relations there, just because has input is a sub relation of has participant in the relation ontology. And in the definition of this has input relation, we have the information that the state actually of the range of this relation is changed. So it seemed to be relevant to our opinion. So just an illustrative example, as I told you, I described the same example within the presentation. So here we have a description that we've seen at the beginning from Drug Bank, describing a FDI existing between garlic and warfarin, and there you have the has participant relation with the garlic food product as described in the food ontology, and the has input relation with the drug warfarin described as in KBI. So for the enrichment process, so to extract the information related to these food-drug interactions within Drug Bank and EDRIN, we followed the XOD methodology, which has been developed in 2018, and some of you know it very well. So this approach has 4 principles. Which is the volunteer to make reuse of existing ontology terms, to make a semantic alignment within the ontology, to use also ontology design patterns to facilitate the the creation and evolution of ontologies. And finally, a community extensibility, which encourages curators of a given ontology to share their ontology and make it used by other groups so that they can be the ontology can be enriched and more consensual. So let's see the different steps we've implemented within our approach. So you have there the global workflow with the corpora from Drug Bank and Edrin. So we made first a term annotation, and then we reused existing ontologies, and with that we use I will explain that later. And then we made also an ontology semantic alignment. And we finally described logical definitions with the ontology design patterns. So let's go more in detail about these different tasks. So first, for the term annotation, we actually made a manual annotation of foods in Drug Bank FDA text description. We annotated different categories, not only the foods, we also annotated food components, herbs, enzymes, interaction mechanisms, physiological effects, and mealtime. First, we selected randomly 100 drugs. And with these drugs, we obtained 473 sentences that were annotated by 3 of the authors of this paper. And regarding the inter-annotator agreement, we obtained at minimum for the Fleis Kappa 0.87 for the food category, and we for the other categories we reached sometimes 1. For the remaining sentences after this annotation by 3 authors, we only made the annotation by 2 of the authors. So here you have an example regarding the warfarin. We have here the same text as the beginning, and there you can see the foods that have been annotated, and here the herbs that have been also identified. Regarding herbs and drugs, actually in Edrin, they are already available in a structured format, so we didn't have anything to add. Regarding the second task, which corresponded to the ontology term reuse, actually we used OLS to search for the annotation terms we obtained at the first task. For the drug terms, we tried to find them in KeyBuy, and if not found, we used Drawn. For the food terms, we focused on Foodon. For the herb terms, we also searched for in Foodon, and when we didn't find anything, we then searched in Drawn. And finally, we made a manual mapping for the annotation terms that we could not find with OLS. Then the third task was focused on the ontology semantic alignment and the organization within the ontology of the different concepts. So regarding drugs, as I mentioned it before, we classified them as chemical entities. According to the ATC classes, we selected only the 2 first levels just to provide a very global structuration of our drugs. So here you can see the representation for warfarin. We kept the information that it's an antithrombotic agent in particular. Regarding foods, we all classified them as food products. As you can see here, garlic, for example, food product, which is under food product. And regarding herbs, some were classified as food products, those found in Foodon, and the other were classified as processed material, like it is done in Drawn. And finally, the fourth task, which was necessary to generate the logical definitions of the concepts was made using ontology design patterns that we have described in robots to automatize this task fully. So just a few results we obtained on this with this method. We have, of course, made FIDEO available. So we have a GitHub where you can find more details and, in particular, competency questions to which FIDEO can answer. And you have, of course, the ontology, but the ontology is also available in reference semantic biomedical portals of ontologies, in particular Ontobi and Bioportal. In FIDEO, to what we call the 2.0, we have described, we have included food-drug interactions related to more than 700 drugs, more than 100 foods and herbs, and actually we included more than 1,700 food-drug interactions within FIDEO. These food-drug interactions are mostly related to a limited number of foods. As you can see, 70% of the FDIs involve the top 10 foods that you can see there. So you have alcohol, of course, as the first one, but we have also Hypericum perforatum, which corresponds to St. John wort, which is a herb very well known for its active ingredients. We have also grapefruit food products, and then the food product food. Then, I provide here a few competency questions that can be made over FIDEO. And we can, of course, find which foods potentially interact with warfarin, and the reverse, we can also find which drugs potentially interact with garlic. And also, we can also make this kind of questions, but for a more generic a drug class, like, for example, the antithrombotic agents. So just to finish, short discussions about the findings first. So we obtained more than 1,700 food drug interactions that we included in FIDEO. We really appreciated the use of XOD because it's very useful, and it will be very useful to manage the evolution of the ontologies, thanks to also the use of the ontology design patterns. And we were wondering also if we should have used ODEK, which is a toolkit which has been published after we made this work. So we haven't used it, but I think it would be very interesting also to investigate a potential use of ODEK, maybe in combination with XOD. So this could be future work. I didn't mention how we addressed the XOD fourth principle, which I don't know if you remember, but the idea was to provide the ontology to other communities so that we have feedback about the ontology and make it evolve according to these feedbacks. And actually, we are working a lot with the Food-On team, which is very interested in making a really community regarding all the ontologies related to food. So it's a similar community as the one with the vaccine, which is there in VDOS. And if you are interested actually in this work, there is we have been publishing a collaborative work, and this paper have just been published in the Semantic Web Journal. So you have there the URL if you are interested. And finally, some limitations and future work we envisage. So, of course, you may have seen that we didn't incorporate food categories. So this could be a very useful thing, in particular to be able to query and find drugs interacting, for example, with high fiber foods or foods rich in vitamin K. Some of them exist actually in Foodon, but some of them not. And finally, we also plan to incorporate other knowledge. And in particular, it would be interesting to describe information about the interaction mechanisms, because it's something very important within the food-drug interaction. So yeah, we plan to do it, although it's not the most simple aspect we could explore. And with that, I thank you, and I can answer questions.
Thank you very much for the nice talk. Do we have any questions from the audience?
I have one curiosity more than first of all, I think this is a great work and was needed to have a more formal representation of interaction drug and food, because it's a huge problem. That's my ignorance about the drug bank. Which is the relation between the drug bank and then RX norm?
Well, I don't know if there is a real link, but I think drug bank is included in RX norm. If I'm, you may correct me, QE, if I'm wrong. But I think
it's the other round, right? I think drug bank will also provide a link to RX norm. So they're mapped basically.
They are mapped.
Yeah.
Okay, because that is. And then I think just comment on your future point that I think including the food category, because that is the missing part, on the food on yet. About, and I don't know if you are thinking of adding the category itself or adding the nutrient component of the food as a step.
Yeah, it could also be yeah, definitely a very it's a very good suggestion. You're right, because it would be another input from which we could make a relevant search. Yeah, you're right.
I know, because I've been just moved to MD Anderson, was working at the National Institute of Environmental Science, and they were very interesting in kind of have something more standardized on the nutrient part of the food.
Yeah.
To relate to toxicity itself. So I think will be really interesting in that part. So.
Yeah, I should talk about that with Damien Doulet, work with the on Foodon, and is very active to make this ontology evolve. And you're right, it's a very very good point. Thank you.
Yeah. I have a comment. Yeah. So thank you, first of all. Yeah, it's a wonderful talk. And thank you for using and including the XOD principles. Yeah. One of the co-authors for the paper.
I know that, yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. So I do have one specific question. Like when you say in your methods, like enrichment process, so the herbs, right? So you classify herbs as a food product or processed material. I'm wondering, what do you mean by herbs here? So like the herbs is more like the plant, right? Or let's see. Yeah, here. So when you say classify as a food product or processed material, so usually when we think about the herbs, we're more thinking about the raw plant. So in here, you're talking about something like a special, yeah.
I'm not sure I understand the question. Maybe you are mixed with classified as? It's just that we made an easier relation between the foods and the food product, food and concept. But I think it's not your question.
Oh yeah, I'm kind of just thinking about how you define herbs here. So you probably define. I'm kind of thinking the herbs, is the herb. Okay, maybe the herbs here is defined as more like the full product or processed material only, right? Because
You're talking about the corpus?
the term, the
I think Oliver doesn't. So is that? Did you ask like is herbs a kind of food? Is that the right classification? So should they be considered as a food, a subclass of food?
Yeah, some of the sorry, I didn't understand that. So yeah, actually, we classified some of the herbs as foods because they are actually described as such in Food On. So for these ones, we describe them as foods. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
But you're right that it might be confusing because some others are processed materials. So we could also have decided to all describe them as food products. Yeah, it's a good. Yeah, it's potentially a good option also.
Yeah, it can be processed, right? It can be food, or it can be it can be plants, right? Just some plants. So yeah, the term definition or classification can be confusing here.
Yeah, you're right. Sorry.
I just thinking, if I remember correctly, like in the food, anything you can eat or have some nutrition, you can classify it like food.
Okay.
I think that's the reason can't infer the herb to the food product.
Yeah.
And some herb, I just, especially in traditional Chinese medicine, you can using that for the drug. So you can say, oh, the herb, if you have the drug role, you can also classify herb under the drug product.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe Actually, they could be both. You're right. I think a solution might be to all classify them as food product and keep the information that it's a processed material also for some of the herbs, maybe.
Yeah, I just say probably it's based on the role or something, or other roles or disposition, that is a material entity. Actually, I think a herb is a material entity and then classify as a different category, like food product or drug product or some other kind of product.
Yeah.
That is the definition. Is the food is a material entity. If food product is material entity, then has to be processed.
Yeah.
This is in the definition.
Yeah. Okay.
So
yeah. So maybe I should have a look at that. Yeah. Thank you for the suggestion.
Yeah, I think we probably want to rename it a little bit, right? Say, yeah, if it's a food product, it's a food product. If it's I think Oliver's point is like differentiate between food product and the plant, right? Like, right? So yeah, if we have some similar things like other food product, I don't know, like tomato or orange, then will that be the plant or be the food, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I have to pay attention to that.
Yeah. And I also have I put something on comment. I think there's another knowledge base or ontology that is similar to what you're working on. It's called iDisk. I put it on the chat.
Yeah, I see that now.
Yeah. So that's more for dietary supplement, but I think they also include like herbs, garlics, things like that.
Okay.
Vitamins, so I think it's relevant.
Yeah, thank you very much. I didn't know that, so yeah, I will have a look. Thank you.
Sure, you're welcome.
Yeah.
All right, good discussions.
Yeah, very interesting for me. Thank you.